My name is Brian Rice. I'm a third-generation wine grower, and I've been making wine for over 2 decades here in Santa Barbara wine country. It's more than a job. It's a calling. Join me as I talk to my fellow winemakers in a series that is a candid conversation between winemakers discussing their wines, their craft, and their lives over 2 glasses of wine. Hi, I'm Brian Rice, and thank you for joining us for 2 Glasses In. I'm here with the legendary Frank Ostini of Hitching. He's both a chef and a winemaker. And Frank, I'm honored to have you here today on the show.
Great to be here, Brian.
I thought I'd just start out by saying, we're so blessed to live in Santa Barbara and in wine country. Santa Barbara is known as the American Riviera. We have this beautiful Spanish heritage. The architecture is beautiful, pressed up against the mountains. We have this beautiful coastline and beaches and surf and volleyball and sailing and the most amazing islands off the coast. That we pinch ourselves every day, right, when we go to work and we here in wine country.
And when you come up the coast from Los Angeles, just 2 hours to the south, it's very urban until you get to Santa Barbara. And once you get over the mountains into the San Ynez Valley, it is cattle country, vineyard land, agriculture.
Horses.
Horses, ostriches. I mean, it's another world.
I think about your beginnings, and I think about what you've experienced in the last 30, 40 years. I've only been here for about 25, so I can imagine what you've seen in the build-up and evolution of our region. You got into this through the restaurant business with the beginnings of Hitching.
Yeah, the Hitching Post, the original Hitching Post in Casmelia, California, 12 miles outside of Santa Maria, was bought by my parents in 1952. That was the year I was born. So I grew up in the food business. So we are steeped in the culture of Santa Maria style barbecue, cooking over an oak wood fire that has been done here for hundreds of years. Even before the Spanish came to California, the Native American Shumash were cooking over the wood, and it's the coast live oak that grows on the hills here. I went off to college and came back and became the bar manager. They wanted good wine with this good food that we had. And we had this great reputation always for steaks cooked over this wood fire. We've expanded the menu to all kinds of things, but I wanted to make wine just to bring it into the family restaurant.
I was under the assumption that you're really more passionate about food first, and then wine came along as a secondary thing, but now it's starting to sound to me like wine's always really been there for you.
I don't know. It seemed too simple to me, just really good food. And until I put wine on the table and started doing food and wine together, did it open my eyes up to the fact that what we had was very special, that my family had. Falling in love with wine made me fall in love with the food. I mean, it was always there.
When you started making wine, did you start thinking about, I'm crafting this wine to go with my food, or was it just to make a great wine?
We were emulating the Burgundian style, using techniques that actually Jim Clendenin had gone to Burgundy and studied how they did it and came back with ideas. And so we had an idea to try to make the Burgundian style earthy and spicy by aging it in barrel with its lees. And that turns out to be a more complex style of wine that works with the food I have. I don't think it was my idea to make it for the food. I was just trying to make wine. Mm-hmm. And of course now everyone says, well, you make the wine to go with the food, right? And, well, I guess so. It's evolved to be, as a chef, we work with intense ingredients, especially the wood of the fire that we cook with. The smoke can be an extremely intense flavor. It can easily overpower the food, depending on how you burn the fire. And we burn it clean, and so it has a distinct flavor, but it's elegant, and combined with the seasonings doesn't overpower the protein or the vegetable that you're cooking.
I'm forgetting you're talking about food right now. It almost sounds like you're talking about barrels.
Well, we take the same thing into the winemaking. Yeah. So I make wine with the sensibilities of a chef.
I love that. What's the grape?
80% Valdegui from French Camp.
Really?
And 20% Pinot Noir.
That's different.
You know, it's from the hottest region that we may get grapes from.
Yeah.
And it's the lowest pH grape
really?
that we work with.
So does it age well, or?
Yeah, it ages good.
Not that it should,
It's always better the second year.
Huh. I've found that with all my wines. So Frank, this rosé is phenomenal. I love rosé. A lot of people don't realize it's actually red grapes that are on the skins for just overnight, sometimes just in the press.
We call it pinks, and we've been making it since 2007. So even before rosé was real popular, and you know, we make 1,800 cases of this.
Nice.
So we do partial barrel fermentation. So we do about half in barrel, half of it in stainless steel tanks. We're using machine-picked fruit from the French Camp Vineyard up in Shandon, which is a very, you know, up in San Luis County, one of the warmest spots. But this grape turns out to have very low pH. We like very crisp, very dry. So there's no residual sugar. This is totally dry, with 20% of Pinot Noir that is to give a richness to it. So it's a light, you know, sort of strawberry character with a little bit of richness, aged in barrel on its lees for, you know, 5 or 6 months and bottled in the spring. We want them crisp and light and refreshing. I guess it goes with food being so dry, but you can drink it.
I prefer them dry. This is delicious.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. No, it's the ultimate versatile food wine. It's also great as an aperitif. I mean, it's a great summer wine.
And we're proponents that you can drink it all year round. You know, before a meal, or even
Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah.
Great with turkey and cranberry.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Why is Santa Barbara so distinctive and different, would you say, compared to other regions?
Well, we have tremendous diversity of climate. So basically the region is more southerly in our hemisphere than most fine winemaking regions could be. They're mostly located higher up, but we have this cool climate based upon the ocean influence that we have, by that unique geography that the mountains were turned sideways and the breezes can come in.
So tell me how you currently have a partner in Hitching Post Wines, Gray Hartley. Tell me how you guys kind of collaborate on that process.
So basically we taste everything separate, make quality judgments on it. For me, I get an idea of what has the structure, what has different fruit components, what has the finish, and then I make an intellectual blend where I make a guess at what the blend might be, and that is assembled, and we taste that. It's a process that takes 2 or 3 months to complete. You know, it seems to work out, and so that's a great collaboration, but I have to depend on him for the drinkability aspect of our wines. And you know, most of our wines are drank when they're very young. Cannot make wines that require a long time before you open them. You never sell a bottle.
Well, you could sell them in the restaurant, but once you take your wines to stores and restaurants outside of your bubble, it becomes much more difficult because it's all about what they want, not about what you want as a winemaker.
Absolutely.
For that particular, you know, I've found myself in the past saying, oh, I'm going to make this really crazy Cabernet Franc at 12% alcohol, and I'm going to take it out, and you get crickets. You get crickets.
Yeah.
And then you go out with a Pinot that's got a slight sweetness to it, and it's a crowd pleaser, we call it, right? And it just sells like crazy.
In 2016, it's always been our best vineyard and our barrels.
So Frank, tell me about the beginnings of Highliner and the reason behind the name.
So it was back in 1998, and we had a new vineyard and we were going to bottle it. We were excited about another bottling, and then we did a classic cuvee with Chris Whitcraft. And Chris had Bien Nacido, and we had our Sanford and Bennett. And we combined those two together.
Legendary vineyards, wow.
And what are we going to call it now? Okay, now we got to come up with some kind of name for it. I said, Gray, do you have some name in the fishing thing that's like Headliner? Well, you know, there is the best fisherman in the fleet's called the Highliner. I'm going, Highliner, best fisherman in the fleet. Okay, well, this is the best wine of our fleet. Let's use that name.
You know, this is a legendary wine. As long as I can remember, you know, since the movie Sideways, especially.
So that was the wine.
This was it.
This was one of the main wines they drank in the movie Sideways. They showed the label several times. They drank it several times. They were in the restaurant. We used to give Rex Pickett a ride home once in a while because he would close the bar.
And that just changed your entire world. I mean, you have to tell me what happened.
I'm a total skeptic for anything given. You know, no one's going to come and give me anything. Rex Pickett, the man who wrote the novel, was hanging out at the bar and doing angst, over drinking quite a bit.
He was being Miles.
He was doing the Miles thing. He was writing the book, but he didn't have the wine part of the book in there until he came into my restaurant. He befriended the bartender, and then he had a crush on a waitress. He wrote us in.
So it's really a real life story, an experience that he had while he was here, which is why
some of it. Yeah,
the restaurant made it into the movie. Right?
Exactly. We were written in from the go.
So tell me about this sideways effect. I experienced it in my winery for about 5-6 years afterwards, and the number of tourists that came to Santa Barbara wine country was incredible.
Yeah.
Tell me how it impacted you.
Well, immediately for us is the restaurant, which was prominent in the movie.
Because we knew it was going to just change everything.
When I walked out of that movie, our jaws kind of dropped. If anybody sees this, they will come, is how I felt.
So tell me how one movie impacted Merlot for not just the industry, but for your restaurant.
And Merlot was the first wine we ever made from Firestone Vineyard, 1979, a Merlot. It was delicious. What is that? A joke in a movie? I don't understand how that could affect a Merlot producer's business. It's just, the power of media is unbelievable. That was a joke.
Incredible what happened to our business. We had to take all the Merlot we had and start blending it into red wines, red blends, and calling them something fanciful in order to move through it. It was about 2/3 of our inventory. But in the last 10 years, Merlot's definitely had a comeback. It's nothing like it was in the 90s when the baby boomers discovered it.
I will contend that the movie Sideways and the popularity of Pinot Noir that came, and there's a lot of good Merlot.
Yeah, that is the side effect of Sideways, right? There's a lot of great Merlot because in order to be a Merlot in this climate, it has to be good. And that's what we finally felt the confidence to finally start releasing Merlots again. And it's refreshing for all those old fans who used to love the Merlot because they remember the good old days when we were known for it.
Yes.
And it's nice to have it back.
So that like brought the movie alive to people, and then brought our wine to people that you couldn't believe.
And it helped elevate the entire Santa Barbara brand as well. I think the entire region benefited from it. And you know, Frank, I have to say you're one of the hardest working guys I know in the industry. And not only are you in the wine industry, but you're also a chef.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine how many years you've been working, 8 to 12 hour days, and you just seem tireless. I don't know how you've managed to pull it off. What's your secret?
I always want to tinker. I always want to try new things. So now I have a lunch business and a tasting room business. Those are two different, totally different than the restaurant itself. But we cook food in the restaurant, deliver it to the tasting room in a 3-wheeled electric cart or a tricycle, and it's going fantastic. But it's a whole nother sets of jobs.
You're a true entrepreneur. I totally respect you, and I know what it means to get bored. We do this to ourselves. We keep taking on more and more and more.
I know. So my life is food and wine. I mean, it just is, and I'm happy for that. I'm blessed with the chance to have been involved since almost the beginning of the wine business here, and to see it happen. And there's we all have great stories to tell, and we don't tell them. We're convinced that there's a piece of us in the wine, and people talk about the energy that goes in, and that people can feel that energy elsewhere. But having the story is so helpful. I'm convinced we have to get everybody's story.
Well, I'll tell you what, this has been a delightful conversation. I'm honored that you've come to my home to talk about wine in Santa Barbara. We're honored to have you on the show, and I can't wait to see where you go. And
we have so much to look forward to. I can't wait till harvest.
Awesome. Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.